What's up, mortgage coach community? I am sitting down with Joe Jardine. Last time I interviewed Joe, it's been several years, and he was spending a lot of time working on, I don't know, the way I'd put it is mental fitness, how to be your best when it matters most, coaching professional athletes, coaching youth athletes, coaching D1 athletes on just mental fitness. Is that fair, Joe? I know you've refined your topics and what you do, but at the end of the day, it's the mind game and helping people do the things they need to do when it matters most.
Yeah, that's right. How to get an edge mentally, specifically around how to win the mind game or whatever you're doing, where that performance is, if it's going to be sports as an athlete, if it's going to be in business or just even as, a spouse, where it may be, whatever role you take on, that performance, there's a mental side to it. And how do you win that?
Yeah, and if I recall, I'm going from memory, but you've worked with teams like the Dallas Cowboys, the 49ers, a number of D1 athletes, and then a lot of youth athletes. It matters everywhere. Did I get that right? Did I get the right teams?
Yeah, right teams, a lot of Pac-12 teams, Cal, USC football, the same problems we see with the pros, the same problems we see with our high school kiddos, when it comes to just their relationship with their performance self. And how do you have a healthier relationship with that where you avoid burnout, peaking, plateauing. And so we see it at all levels and we work with all levels.
Right on, right on. Well, here's what time it is in the mortgage business. And you may know some of this, you may not know some of this. So as of about a month or so ago, rates had gone up 2% in 2 months, which was the fastest increase in interest rates in the history of the mortgage industry. And now literally in the past 3 days, I don't even know what the net increase in interest rates is, but let's just say it's historical. Like rates have never gone up so quick. They're coming off of 2 years of the top 2 years of the history of the mortgage industry. So now rationally, because the purchase market is still strong, we still have a relatively strong mortgage market. But here's the deal, it's changed. We've gone from 3 years of back-to-back winning Super Bowls to this season, we're not even going to have a 50%. We're not even going to make the playoffs, and it's tough. And like the call you and I are having right now, it is like in the middle of the storm. We just lost a huge game. We were the favorites. We're not playing our best, and there's a lot of things we can't control. Now, one thing is for sure, we can control today. We can control tomorrow. And part of the leadership I want to bring to the community that I serve is I want to help people get out and prospect, because it is a great time to gain market share. It's a great time to call realtors. It's a great time to call your past customer database. It's a great time to call every trigger lead that you get in your database. So let's talk about that any way you want to talk about it.
I think it's a good example just in sports as well, where we can get so focused like on stats or scoreboard, and that becomes such a distraction of who we are, really our purpose is, or maybe even our role as an athlete or role as a businessman or woman. And so I think we get caught up in that prolonged distraction or prolonged focus, let's say on stats, or if it's interest rates or things like that. Just like anything else, when we have prolonged focus, it creates confusion in the mind. The brain talks itself out of the good and into the bad more times than not when it comes to hyper focus on anything. And so this is where we got to reevaluate and realize we got to keep things transformational and not transactional. And when that means is our approach towards our role in life. And so, for example, if we wake up every day, we're checking interest rates, which maybe is part of what you guys do, but we just look at, the numbers in terms of, what's happening, what's going on, that becomes very transactional when it comes to our approach towards business or just when it comes to just life in general. And what happens is when you become transactional, you get focused on what is happening and what I need to do. And the focus on the what and the transaction actually creates more of a anxious mind, worrisome thoughts. You can't think clearly. You can't approach things clearly. It actually diminishes performance in all areas of life. And so what we want to do is we want to move from transactional to what we call transformational approach, or transformational living, or transformational, business, where it may be, which is not focusing on the what, the stats, the scoreboard, things like that, but refocusing on the why. Why am I doing this? What is it about? It's about the person I'm working with. It's about the relationship. What is the purpose that's driving me towards my job every morning? The purpose hasn't changed no matter what the numbers are. The purpose is still there. That is the bread and butter. That is the breadcrumb that which we need to follow. But so many times, especially after a hard loss or like you said, back-to-back Super Bowls, now we're kind of didn't make the playoffs, doesn't mean that the transformational aspect of our approach needs to change. Actually, that needs to get stronger. We need to double down on that. And so that is making those connections, those relationships, double downing on that, but recognizing what is your why behind this? Is it the aspect of making sure that my clients or my people I work with are getting the very best service? The aspect of transformational is taking control and focusing on what I have control of. And that is my behaviors, my relationships, my focus, my thoughts around what is happening today. Not what happened tomorrow or what happened last 2 years, but focusing on today. But so many times people get disrupted with these distractions of quote numbers, stats, things like that. And that keeps us in a state of confusion. We lose the aspect or mindset on when it comes to what the transformational aspect of our approach is, which is our bread and butter. And so I say, go back to that. Go back to why you got into this. Go back to why I made the last 2 years are so successful. Not so much, I would say, because of numbers per se, as much as it has to do with more of what? The relationship, the connection point, the aspect of really feeding the heart, recognize what people's desires and needs are. It's not so much, you're not selling a promise. You're actually selling something that has to do with the aspect of feeding people's, pain in which they want a sense of peace on and worry. Bring peace into that. And that's really what the transformation comes in.
So let me test some things you said, and then let me share something that I believe, and then get your impression on it. So one, this would be a time that if you had a 5-year plan for yourself and you really needed to look beyond the day, the transaction, and hey, what's your mission? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And then also transactional. I always talk about the transaction. And one of the things I have been advocating in the mortgage industry is we celebrate how many loans you closed and what your production is. And those are like outcomes. And it's important to celebrate those, because at the end of the day, that's scoreboard in a game. That's how we get paid. That's how companies make profits. But I've always advocated that celebrate as much as that, maybe more, what your conversion rate is, and celebrate how profitable you are for loan. Celebrate how many leads you generated, because those are things that, first of all, you have more direct control. You can measure it. And if you do good at those things, the scoreboard does really well. So start to like, this is the market to obsess over, don't worry about how many, maybe not even how many leads you got. How many calls did you make? How many conversations did you have? Score yourself, like start micro gamifying things, and you get off the phone with a realtor and, hey, I got a 5, and celebrate that like you celebrated a closed loan. What are your thoughts on some of that thinking?
Yeah. Let me add on to that. What I do and where I work with my clients, the aspect of we need to start celebrating decisions. Yes, the result, the outcomes are important. We're not going to deny that. But sometimes when we're trying to make a comeback, like a lot of athletes I work with are kind of just, they're working from behind. They want to get back to being elite again. We got to make the decision to get up, the decision to make that call. We need to celebrate the decision of maybe making cold calls that are very difficult. We got to celebrate the decision of, like you said, maybe that game, I think it's like a 5-star, whatever that is, concept. Like making decisions that got me there need to be celebrated just as much as the result does. And celebrating the decision as you continue to go along that journey, what happens is it's become what we call like a journeyman versus a map reader. A lot of people fall in love with the map of business, making money, and they fall in love with the results. At some point, we got to switch that and change that. We got to fall in love with the journey of it. And how we do that is by celebrating decisions that we make. And a lot of stuff that we do is meaningful. A lot of stuff that we do that brings value in our life also accompanies with anxiety and worry and stress, especially during these times we feel like we're being squeezed. And so we know if I have a little bit of anxiety, worry, it's probably because it brings value to who I am, or value to my family, or value to my bank account, right? And so we need to start understanding this, celebrating the decisions, especially during difficult times. It's so important. And it's actually very rewarding for the mind to do that. It's a great way for you to, in so many ways, set up a comeback. And how we celebrate comeback is to start celebrating the decision to today, I'm going to start working out. Today, I'm going to wake up at the same time every day. Today, like it was like that guy says, what he says, win your day by noon. Today, I'm going to start making a decision to win my day by noon. Okay, let's do it. And so making that decision needs to be celebrated. If that really is what matters, that's the first step.
So I actually went and put on, I didn't start the interview with my Win by Noon shirt, but as I was listening to you and I was thinking about the leadership I'd love to bring to mortgage professionals, to managers and leaders of mortgage professionals, because they tune into our YouTube channel, is first and foremost, I think, start changing the metrics in which we measure each other professionally, because companies are going to do that. And I would push every company to start, and most of you guys already scorecard, conversion, profitability, and these things, but start to celebrate the people that are winning, because there is a top 10%, and we don't want to beat down the bottom 10%, but we want to celebrate the top 10, and then we want to bring their tactics and strategies and have them mastermind. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm still getting great conversion. Hey, this is how in this market there's a lot of price compression and there's more rate exceptions and people are losing loans because of price shopping. And so just share the tactics and strategies that people are doing best. But that also got me starting to think, well, we got to make sure we're getting the right sleep when it's stressful like this. We got to make sure we win by noon. And really, as I was listening to you talk and we're having this conversation, I was almost thinking like getting the right sleep we need and winning by noon may be the two single most important things people could do.
Well, and I'll add on to that, realizing that mental toughness comes from emotional wellness. And so we usually flip that. We think toughness.
Mental toughness comes from an emotional awareness.
And so,
write that down, everybody.
So meaning, especially during these times that maybe feel like we're being squeezed, if we're not emotionally well, we can never be mentally tough. So the first thing we work on with all people, all of our clients, is we work at the aspect of their emotional wellness, which is the aspect of, let's say, increasing emotional intelligence, starting every day. The first 30 minutes when you wake up is you make sure you journal. You do your 14 minutes of journaling a day, which we really try to force everyone to do because it's really life-changing when it comes to increasing emotional wellness. And once you have the emotional wellness, and the mental toughness usually comes pretty easy. It comes pretty naturally. Grit is easier when you're feeling emotionally well. And so having certain, like you're saying, certain habits or certain disciplines is tremendous, including the aspect of just getting sleep. But see, those are moments that, when you do those, you celebrate that mentally. You celebrate in your head, like, good, I'm glad, good, I got a good night's sleep. Now I can conquer the day. Yes, now my day by noon, now I have the next 10 hours is just, whipped cream on top of the sundae. And so, it's important to recognize is that the breadcrumbs, the daily habits are so tremendously important, no matter if we're high or low, good or bad, losing or winning, we stick to that. And that's what makes our approach so transformational when it comes to working with others, especially in a service industry.
So let's unpack that quote real quick. And I want to get a checklist as long as you want to go. So mental toughness comes from emotional awareness. We talked about sleep. We talked about win by noon. You said first 30 minutes of the day, journal. Guys, that's another reminder that, the win by noon journal is tracking everything. Like when you track your leads, when you track your conversion, every one of those things is a little micro victory that you're going to feel good about yourself. And two, whatever you measure, it improves. Like that's just this rule in life. And I agree with it. Like I believe in the 20-80 rule or the 80-20 rule. Like it's a thing. And I have just always found in business, when I track it and measure it, things improve. What are some other things we can add on this list of things that would grow our emotional awareness so we can grow our mental toughness?
Yeah, I want to add on to that because you make a great point. I really believe you got to manage what you want to measure in life. And the reason why we have all of our clients journals, because what's the greatest way to manage your emotional wellness is by journaling. And so if you want to manage what you want to measure in life, you got to journal. And so spending that 14 minutes a day, 1% of your day, doing your 3-2-1, 3 things you're thankful for, 2 things you're excited about, 1 thing I want to accomplish today, and then doing your daily affirmations, your I will, I am statements. And as we know, especially from USC's performance psychology department, saying the word, it is like me, that statement, it is like me to perform well today, it is like me to outsweat my competition, it is like me to do 15 phone calls by noon, it is like, that statement is considered to be one of the most motivating statements that anyone can do to manufacture confidence and motivation. So things like that matter, right? And so those are the small things. When you're able to do that, it's tremendous. I think other habits, of course, it's the breadcrumbs. What is it? Okay, am I drinking enough water? Okay, yeah, sounds weird, but that actually matters when it comes to your emotional wellness. Are you recognizing are distractions in my life starting to take a foothold or a stronghold on my mind? So that could be anything from the news, or last 2 years could be stuff when it comes to, let's say, like COVID. Are distractions becoming something that I'm hyper focused on, which I'm losing a part of who I am, or it's becoming a relational issues in my life, or things like that. So you recognize distractions, and recognize distractions a lot of times are cognitive distortions in our lives. And so, are you journaling every day? What are the cognitive distortions? What are ways that my mind and my emotions are actually lying to me? Write those down. Why? Because if you don't write it out, you will act it out. And acting out could be imploding, anxiety, depression, or it could be poor performance. And so whatever I'm feeling and whatever I'm thinking, that is what you do in that journal. Maybe doing the win day by noon journal is the concept in which when you do write it out, you have more margin to work with, and you're not going to act it out later on. Think about people that have, for example, anger issues or short temper. We all have these people in our lives, right? Those are people that have low EQ, emotional intelligence, and they're not giving themselves permission to feel. Well, when you give yourself permission to feel, which is actually a very great book everyone needs to read, give yourself permission to feel is the concept in which you allow yourself to actually write down on paper, not typing it out, because plenty of research on journaling that when you write it out, actually increases serotonin and dopamine levels. When you write out your thoughts and your emotions and things that you're worried about, things like that, it tremendously affects you 2 hours later, Dave. And so it's not instant gratification. It's not like a party pump before we go out to parties in college, right? It's more of 2 hours, 3 hours later, they found the brain adapts and just after it. And that's when the increase of serotonin, feeling good, increase of dopamine, motivation is then occurring within the brain. And so we do these things within the first hour, 30 minutes of your day. You're now creating a foundation that's going to be, tenfold 2 to 3 hours later, which is tremendous. We all need that.
So you mentioned a couple books, guys. Check those out. I am currently reading Jonathan Roach's book, The 12 Key Habits to Thrive, a simple and proven way to crank up your energy and hit your goals. So Jonathan's someone we interview a lot here in the mortgage coach community. He just recently released a new book. First of all, I think we've given folks a lot of ideas and tactics from a performance leader such as yourself that will help people and help managers lead their people. I got 2 more questions before we wrap this up. One, if there was a book that was the book, it may be your favorite book, but the book that created the most value for you, what would be the book that is either your favorite or created the most value for you personally?
Well, the greatest one this year is going to be named The Permission to Feel, which is actually written by the head of the Emotional Intelligence Center at Princeton. And it is fantastic. He talks about the 5 questions everyone's going to ask themselves to increase emotional intelligence that they found through research. If I knew the 5 right now, I would give it to you, but it's in the book. I didn't memorize it, but it's fantastic. And he talks about the aspect of being leadership in there. It's understanding how people feel, recognizing how people feel, how to do with those emotions and feelings to actually lead them to a better, healthier place. Read that one. An odd little one that not a lot of people will probably read. This is going to sound weird, Dave. The Mental Game of Tennis. The Mental Game of Tennis, I get to all my athletes and leaders and businessmen and women who want to get a stronger mental game. That small little book, which you probably get on Amazon right now, I'm not sure it's out of publish, is fantastic. It talks about the aspect of how to have a healthy relationship with self. What are thoughts that you need to say to yourself? For example, I am, I will statements. Keep it there, nowhere else. Recognizing that your difference between a great day and a bad day is your attitude. The difference between win or loss is your attitude. Well, you have control of your attitude. Recognizing things like posture matters, right? Recognizing things like how you breathe matters. And so these small little tidbits you all have control over is tremendous when it comes to developing confidence. Small things like maxing out sounds weird, but maxing out on push-ups. So for example, my son is in occupational therapy, OT, and he's lacking tremendous amount of confidence at school. And one thing that the OT does is they force him to work out the chest, because they found out that the part of the brain that creates confidence is the same part of the brain that is attached to the chest. So this is why guys feel confident after chest day. They don't skip chest day, they skip leg days, right? And so for my son, every morning he's got to do push-ups. Well, they found out, reading this book, the aspect of getting people an edge, like in a sport like tennis, which is so mental because it's not a team game, it's an individual game, right? So all the focus is on you. Is a little tidbit of, okay, before you get out on the court, you need to max out on push-ups. Well, that's one of my things that I do every day. I do with my son. We max out on push-ups every morning as an aspect of just activating that part of the brain that says, let's get confident, let's go there. That book I recommend, easy read. It really is not about tennis, to be honest with you. It's actually about you having a healthy mental relationship with your performance self and anything in life, which begins with how you treat yourself verbally, internally, activating the inner coach, quieting the inner critic that we all have. And really what it comes down to, Dave, is have you learned to listen to the right voice in your head? We all have the right voice. We got to activate that. We got to listen to it. And a lot of us don't. And so how do we do that? And
so that's the inner game of tennis with Timothy Galloway.
Yes. It's got the
okay. Yep, it's a 4-hour book. I just bought it on Audible. So game on, and it's funny, in Jonathan Roach's book, the number, he has 12 things, and number 1 was your positive versus negative voice, and it's all about, 1, being able to have the awareness to know when you're in positive voice versus negative voice, and mastering it. Awareness and mastery of positive voices is the number 1 thing he has in his book. You should check it out.
I will. Well, that's an interesting point too, which is so many of us growing up, we play sports or even going through the educational system, is we actually motivate ourselves through the critic inside of us, the wrong voice. And we did it by either creating a fear-based approach towards it. I mean, like, if I don't perform well, I'm not going to get the ice cream after the game. Maybe mom, dad might say this to me, or I'm not going to get the right college. And so we really develop Freud would say we developed an overriding id, but we just say the fact is that we really have done very well in feeding the inner critic. And here's the other part about that. Too many times we listen to it and we don't speak back to it. Too many times people listen to their anxiety, stop listening to it and start speaking back to it. And that's the thing that we teach people who are even going through struggles when it comes to, excessive worry or anxiety, where it just paralyzes them. At some point, you got to talk back, and talking back to the beginning in which you start listening to the right voice. And so just recognizing small little changes like that, even it could be just right before you have a presentation or a phone call, talk back to that. Speak into an existence in so many ways. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy theory, which I believe they just found out like 83% increased chance of it occurring, that if you speak into it, what you want to do, that it has that such an increase of it actually happening. I think it's based on the book, The Inner Circle. And so that's pretty tremendous to think about.
Well, dude, this has been awesome. I hope it doesn't take me years to get you back on Zoom and in the mortgage coach community. So folks, I titled this How to Overcome Prospecting Reluctancy. And, we didn't talk about scripts. We didn't talk about sales tactics, because so much of what it takes, you know what to say. And if you don't know what to say, we got Scriptapalooza, and our YouTube channel is full of countless loan officers giving you the script to call a realtor. And the reason that many of you are not calling agents, you're not sleeping well, you're not drinking enough water, you're not journaling, you're not as emotionally strong as you need to be. And that's also just a reminder to everyone who's a manager and you lead folks. Guys, this is a market. There will be an 80-20 in this market. There will be 80% of mortgage professionals that will lose market share. The market's tough, and it will be even tougher for them. But guys, there is going to be a 20%, and I want that 20% to be anyone that tunes in to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, anyone that follows our Facebook group. While there's a lot of activity on Facebook that is not productive, it is not attitude building and mental strength building, but our YouTube channel, our Mortgage Coach Facebook group is all about bringing positive, bringing light, and helping you guys crush it. Joe, what would be the best places for people to follow you, or if you had any workshops coming up, where can they follow you and where can they learn more from you?
Yeah, I think you look us up at the resetgroup.com is our website. We have a podcast that we started, maybe about 12, 13 episodes where my wife's kind of the host of it. And of course the looks, because she's so cute. And so we have a podcast. We talk a lot about this kind of stuff, specifically around just different roles outside of business, relationships, things like that. And feel free to follow us on TikTok. We got the little TikTok.
Hey, TikTok. I'm gonna have to check it out. What's
Awesome.
the podcast name?
The Reset Group. There's
The
several
Reset, guys.
the Reset Group. So, or the Reset Podcast, what it's called. The Reset Podcast. Check it out. You'll see like a cartoon version of me and my wife has blonde hair. And it's basically, it's a modern approach to mental health. And that's what we're looking at. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, the time is right, guys. And we need to all reset our expectations. We need to reset our strategies. We need to reset our attitudes. So check it out, guys. I look forward to our next conversation, brother. This is a wrap, guys. Give us a like down below. Share it with your mortgage friends. Share it with your mortgage leaders, and have an awesome day.
Thanks, Dave.